think it's difficult in the beginning. There's difficulty at the beginning of any phase of change in our life. There's difficult in the beginning of every phase that we go through in our life. Chaos is the best order. Chaos brings order. Chaos brings order. Chaos brings order. Chaos forces us in chaos. When things remain stagnant, we can stay in a state of avoidance. When things stay stagnant, I've learned from myself, when things stay stagnant, I can stay in a state of avoidance. When things stay stagnant, I can remain in a sense of disorganized thought. When things remain stagnant, not moving, there's no energy moving into that space, we become anxious. If I'm always moving, I notice for myself, if I kept, when I'm moving, when I'm in motion, when I'm growing, when I'm learning, when I'm tapping in, when I'm moving and when I'm moving into things, I never have a state of anxiousness. My anxiousness never kicks in. I never get anxious. I'm not in a state of complacency. It's because chaos brings order. Chaos allows you to tap in to learn order. Sometimes we run away from the chaos. We run away from the chaotic situation. But I learned in the most chaotic situations, I learned where I needed to be at. I learned that I didn't need to be in every situation. I learned that I didn't need to be in every situation. I learned that I had my place only defined by myself. I learned how to define myself in that space. Sometimes we avoid chaos because the mindset of victimization. I'm a victim of the system. I'm a victim of this, and that. So now we take a space of complacency not to go through the chaos. We want things to always stay the same. We don't want things to grow. We don't want those things to evolve. You can't evolve without chaos. I've learned in just those steps for myself, just going through my shadow work, just going through that shadow work in an overall aspect. Without chaos, I couldn't bring anything in a new order. I would still be the young God that I was. I still would be in the God sense. At my job. I still would be at the God sense in my job. I would still have something to be like, man, fuck everybody around me. I'm a God. They don't know me. Da 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 da. I would still be trying to prove something, and it would only be based upon everything around me being at a lower level. Chaos teaches us how to level up. Chaos gives us the ability to level up. Chaos gives you the ability to level up. Without the chaos, without that spark, how do you know how strong you are? How do you know how to become organized? How do you know what you're avoiding if you do not? How do you know what you're avoiding or learn how to stop avoiding things if you do not allow yourself to come into that state of chaos? How do you know that your disorganized space, your disorganized thoughts, they're only based on things being stagnant? When you're overthinking everything and you sitting in that space, yes. When you sitting in that space with yourself and you find yourself overthinking, you find yourself anxious, you find yourself in this high sense of anxiety, when you find yourself in that high state, this is the best time to address those liabilities. Remember, we were talking about these liabilities for the last couple of weeks. You're becoming the greatest asset in your space. You're becoming your greatest asset. It's going to require the friction. The friction is going to bring yourself into that understanding that you're going through a state of progression, and it's going to help you separate. If there's nothing around you challenging you to that level, there's nothing around you pushing you in that level, then when something does come around and it challenges you and it pushes you, what it's going to trigger is that it's the inner child complex. I remember just sitting in a lot of times where I would sit there straight, steadfast, and if somebody told me something, the first thing that would come up like, you can't tell me that, I'm grown. You can't tell me that I'm this. I always had something to come with. I always had something to come with. That's the inner child. A lot of times we don't realize that it's our inner child that's always in a state of reaction. It's our inner child always in a state of reaction based on trying to get that attention, based on trying to be seen, based on trying to be heard, based on trying to remain in a state to where it can continue being heard, continue being seen, continue reacting, continue using its emotions, using the old way that we used to survive, using the old way that you used to survive. As long as you remain in the old states of how you used to survive, you are calling on that settling. You're calling on being stagnant. You're always going to find a sense of stagnant because naturally we look for chaotic situations. Naturally, your anxiety leads you to the most chaotic situation or the most chaotic thought that you created in your own mind. You create that thought in your own mind. You create a scenario unconsciously to fit your identity, to fit that old self, to fit where you're at. It's time for us to start creating the scenarios of where we're trying to go. Become where you're trying to go. Become it in your space. Separating away from the physical, the material aspect is the only way that you can become free. Separating away from the physical content, the external contents that give you the illusion of that you're free in order to name that you are free. That's only brought into the chaos. I remember sitting in positions with myself, taking those deep moments of reflection, and I was like, the only way that I could say that I was free, the only way that I could say I was at peace, the only way that I could say I was happy is because it had to have the comma followed by something beside it. I'm at peace because I am at peace because I can lay my head down. I'm at peace because I can go to I can freely walk around and do what I want to do. But I never really defined peace within myself. I never could define the peace within myself. The peace is in the most simplistic manner. I'm always at peace because whenever I'm sitting here, like for example, when I start finishing up the editing on the podcast, this week's episode, that we're going to get into at the end. This week's episode, whenever I'm feeling anxious or I'm feeling a little bit stagnant, I'll go walk outside. I'll go walk outside, walk around in the grass. I might take a nice little walk. Just that, taking myself in, embracing absence. Freedom is the ability to embrace absence. Freedom is in that ability, amongst many other abilities, is the ability to live in that detached state. There's a difference between avoidance. There's a difference between the disorganized thought. There's a difference between that anxious thought or the anxious attachments. These 4 attachments. And these are the levels that we go through in order to become securely attached or securely connected. The secure connection within ourselves allows us to be securely connected to our higher power. You can be tapped into your higher power only once you rest that aspect. Bringing you into that space. Helping you move inside of that space. But you need that chaos. Without that chaotic event, you may never leave that job. Without that chaotic event, you may never leave where you're at. Without the chaos, you may never be able to establish anything else. It's all in how you transmute through it. A lot of us take that chaos, we take that chaotic moment and the things that it brings up. Remember, because I'm always talking about the aspects of you manifest and bringing things into order. When you're bringing things into order, that chaos is needed. Similar to if I sit here and I begin my day in my meditation and I take my breaths in and I'm bringing myself into that space, allowing my controlling the breathing, learning my thoughts, learning everything that's in that space, and then allowing myself to move forward. But I had to go through a lot of chaotic situations to learn that lesson. The lesson is going to be in that chaotic moment. The lesson is going to be in that chaotic experience. That chaos is going to bring forth everything that you need to say. It's going to shake everything up. Everything that was settled you got to throw that shit up. You have to have it. I remember trying to stay in the most peaceful situations, but it was based on me avoiding the situation. I remember the longer that I stayed in a situation where I was stagnant, the more disorganized I became. I noticed I became more disorganized than my thought. I became my overthinking kicked in. Then I stepped into that anxiousness. The 4 levels of attachment. That's what we're getting into this week on the God Hour podcast, No Guidance. Without chaos, you can't have any guidance. I don't think of the 4 attachments, the 4 attachment types, the 4 mains that we're going to get into. I don't think of them as separate, but everybody has a separate one. I really, doing that study, like, we all have that base aspect. One of my base attachment style, due to a lot of childhood traumas and a lot of our events, for a lot of us is the avoidant attachment. That avoidance, that fear of getting close, that fear of discussing, the fear of expression, all of these aspects go down that line. And as I learned that I was in the avoidant attachment was my base, based on the childhood events, based on the traumas, based on these events, I learned that ushered into the disorganization. That ushered into me always up, since I was avoiding getting myself in order, I always stayed in a state of disorganized or that overthinking narrative. And then that always left me anxious. That anxiousness that had me always trying to build something based on the past. The very past that I was trying to avoid, that's what I was trying to build my future in. The very present, the very past aspects that we try to avoid, we do not know that unconsciously we try to build our future in. So you'll always remain anxious. You'll always remain disorganized. Because you can't settle yourself. There's no guidance. There's nothing guiding you but the emotion. You need that, oh my God, I need that. I need that. I need that. I need that. I need this. I need that. I need that. I need to get this. I need to get this. I need to get this. All of these triggers hitting the wounds. All of these triggers hitting you in your wounds. I want you to take this moment to yourself. Take this next couple minutes to yourself. Take that deep breath in. Let that breath out. And I want you to embrace the chaotic situation. When was the last time that chaotic situation that you are in, that state of chaos that you always seem to go in, it's time to embrace the lesson to be learned. Maybe it's time for you to make that separation. Maybe it's time for you to take that state of absence. Maybe it's time for you to shift gears. Maybe it's time for you to shift those gears. Because that's the only way you're going to gain that focus. That's the only way you're going to gain that focus. That focus is going to come, it's not going to come when you settle. It's not going to come in that stagnant situation, that stagnant space. It's not going to come there. It's going to come through that chaotic situation. The moment that you say you want change, you want better, you want to better yourself, you want to grow, you want to groom yourself, you want to do something different, it's going to come through. Everything that needs to come up is going to come up. Oh shit. Oh my God, I lost my job. Oh my God, I lost my relationship. Oh my God, my son, my kids are acting real crazy. That's what's needed. That's what's needed to be addressed. If your children going crazy, what I've learned, like if your children are going crazy, or their anger issues, or they're coming up to that space and they're giving you this space of learning to like their anger, their attitudes, the way that they're thinking, the way that they're feeling. It's a moment in time for you to reflect into yourself, because at that point in time, when you were that age, you did the same thing. When you were that age, you did the same thing. The moment that you say, the moment that your job is sitting there and they cut your hours or get rid of you, what were you learning in that position? Maybe it's time for you to shift gears and really start working on that idea that you had. Maybe you had that idea, I want to start my own company. I want to start my own business. I want to start my own firm. I want to start something of myself. That's what that's giving you. It's giving you the out. You wanted to change. You wanted to evolve. Now you have the time. Now you have the space. It's all in what you do with it. Embrace the chaos. It's going to bring you into that order. It's going to bring you into that balance. Yeah. I want you to be the best. I desire you to be the best. I desire you to tap into your greatest potential. I desire you to grow, groom, cultivate from the best space ever. I want you to become the best version of yourself. But it's going to involve letting go. It's going to involve letting go of the things that you once settled for. It's going to involve letting go of the things that are now stagnant. It's going to involve letting go of those. It's going to involve a lot of letting go. It's going to involve that releasing. It's going to involve that acknowledging. It's going to involve that acceptance. It's going to involve you setting that tone for that apology. And as I'll always say, the only true apology to yourself first is change behavior. So if you're not willing to change your behavior, why are you looking for an apology? If you're not willing to change your own behaviors, how do you expect anybody to give you an apology? Stop using it to settle. Stop trying to settle. This ain't a moment to settle. It's spring, new year. Shit's blooming. The shit around you's blooming right now. What did you plant? What seeds did you plant? What seeds did you plant? What seeds did you plant in your day-to-day, in your going forward? What seeds did you plant? Because those seeds are coming into bloom now. So think about everything that you did, hot girl summers and winters and falls, all that time you had to cultivate up to this moment. What have you been cultivating that's about to come into bloom right now? I had to really think about that a long time for myself. Everything that I planted, everything that I've worked on and cultivated up to this point, now I'm in a state of bloom. Now I'm in a state to be able to embrace it. Clear out the space. Clear out the space. Make it what you want to be. The universe, the higher power, whatever you want to call it in your journey, is not going to give you to what you want to be. It's going to give you to what you are. It's going to give you all the ingredients based on where you are, so you can build that bridge to where you want to go to. Break the attachments. Anything from, and as always, if you're interested in any services, you can inbox me right after this video, or you can hit me up at GoDCalchemistLLC.com. Everything from readings, that shadow work consultation, natal chart, the in-depth natal chart analysis, the human design chart analysis, and many of my other services. GoDCalchemistLLC.com. And y'all tune in to tap out God Hour Podcast, 6 a.m. every Tuesday, because today is the only day that matters. During this Monday, Moon Day, this day of change, how are you investing into your changes? How are you investing into the change? Everything that's changing around you, how are you investing into it? What are you learning from it? I want you to be the best. Peace and power. I love you. You love us. Ashe.